Hello everyone, I'm Annie Gibbins and you're listening to Memoirs of Successful Women, the podcast where you get to hear candid conversations with fascinating women from around the globe who share aspects of their business and life journey, how they measure their success, and what they have learnt along the way. Well, hello, everybody. I'm so excited to be welcoming Dr. Wendy Labat today to the Memoirs of Successful Women podcast. She's also known internationally as the financial healer. So you're going to be getting lots of financial discussion and information today, and she's going to be super excited to be telling you about her new book, which I'll let her share about. She's an award-winning entrepreneur, strategist, speaker, and best-selling author. She's got a doctorate in business administration and is also the CEO of the Financial Cures LLC, which is a financial strategy and business development firm. She also serves as founder and CEO of Ascend Foundation Incorporated, which is a not-for-profit organization established to empower disadvantaged women to realize their dreams of entrepreneurship. So welcome to the program, Dr. Wendy.
Well, thank you, Annie. It's a pleasure to be here. I appreciate the invitation.
Oh, I'm super excited because I haven't had anyone on my podcast series from that financial perspective. And I know you've got 36 years of experience going from like zero knowledge in business to becoming, this international best-selling author on financial success for women particularly. And so tell me a little bit about where you are now, and then we'll unpack the journey that has been Dr. Wendy.
Okay. Well, where I am now is, like you said, a best-selling author. Yay. And that's just been in the last 10 days. So that's just how new it is to me. But, I'm a speaker, which is another new venture for me. And then I've been in business 36 years. So I started back when there was no internet or social media. So this is a whole new pivot for me, to go totally virtual. And I'm not a technology person. So, I'm old school. So I've had a few challenges, but you got to go with the flow. So I can't complain.
So the most exciting thing in your life at the moment is suddenly writing this book, Diagnose Your Financial Health. And you've put it on Amazon, and within a week, you're a best-selling author. People are buying it globally. So what's in that book? Why should people buy that book? And how will it just, pretty much change their life from a financial health perspective?
Well, times have changed. We're in an economic pandemic. So people are having to revisit their finances, even if those that made a lot of money and business owners, because of the COVID pandemic, people have had to change. People have lost jobs. They've closed businesses. They've downsized. So you have to really reevaluate where you are financially. And this book helps you do that. It goes back to the basics because, once you have the basics, you can build from there. And once, you get so high, even if, you get knocked down, if you go back to the basics, you can start back up and get to where you want to be. So I've got all kind of little tips and, informative information. The main thing is the 6 obstacles to winning the money game. That's sort of a big picture look at how to handle money regardless of the circumstances, so there's 6 obstacles. And if you can, overcome those, then basically you can come out okay. And it doesn't really have to be about what the economic environment is.
Interesting. In the current economic environment, that you're quite confident to say it's not all about the economic environment, it's around the obstacles. And so we will obviously make sure people buy the book to find out what the obstacles are. But what do you think about people's attitude towards money? Do you think I find a lot of people in my work sort of find, they'll have an anchored belief about money, and do they deserve money, and should they, it's almost like you do attract what you believe. Is there a significant issue with how people feel about money or value money that sort of surfaces in your work?
Well, that's one of the first obstacles is
Oh,
mindset, mindset and lack of knowledge, because you have to have the right mindset. You can't want wealth and have a pauper's mindset.
yeah,
You have to, for one, like you said, believe that you deserve money, because it's not just about money. It's about being able to help other people. And the only
yeah,
way to help other people is to have some money. Not the only way, but that's the best way. You can have knowledge, but even with the knowledge, you need to be able to have finances to go with it. And then, you don't want to struggle all the time. There are going to be struggles because life, is full of struggles, but you want to be able to confidently be able to go beyond that, especially financially, because I find that people that have the most money have the worst time managing it. So the folks that usually, are tight when money's tight, they know how to, like my grandmother used to say, she can get blood out of a turnip. So, and people that have money, the main factors of money is your income, your expenses, and your spending. And people track their income, they track those expenses, but they don't look at the spending. And that's what kills a budget. That's what kills your finances. When you go out and spend uncontrollably, people say, I can't afford this, I can't afford that. But my clients, I give them a spending challenge. And once they go through that, they realize that they have money that they spend in areas that were really for non-essential, stuff,
yes,
stuff that they don't need, they just want and think they need. And
mm,
once they go through it, one of my clients, it's so funny, I always tell the story, he went through the challenge and he said, Wendy, I spent $800 eating out. And it wasn't any business expense or anything like that. It was just, a matter of him saying he was, taking his wife out, grandkids and all that. And it wasn't that he couldn't afford it. It's just that he realized $800 could have gone somewhere else, and been
yeah,
more effective, like to reduce debt or increase his cash reserves, pay down some credit cards or whatever. But $800 eating out, it made him realize, like, let me track and start being more, conscious of what I spend. And I
yeah.
find once they start being more conscious of what they spend, they can afford a lot more than they think they can afford.
I think that's a brilliant point. It is all about the consciousness, isn't it? And that's it. When you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about your grandmother there, that's true. When you've got nothing, you know where every little cent has gone, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because your focus, your attention is on, is it coming in? Is it going out? How do I spend it? What do I value? If I had a
Mm-hmm.
few coins or dollars, what would I spend it on? You've just got all of this emotional focus. And I work a lot on,
Yeah.
clarity focus, and
Mm-hmm.
keeping things simple. So it's really interesting that's right. Once you've got a bit more, you become a bit more casual. And it's
Mm-hmm.
interesting that you then suddenly go, oh, I just spend money, but I feel like I still don't have any. And it's probably because our focus doesn't sort of go into those areas that's right. It just suddenly slips out.
Mm-hmm.
I said in your introduction, you've got a master's of business and you've got your own company. How did you get to that stage when you suddenly started 36 years ago and you suddenly thought, well, okay, well, I'm in finance, I'll start my own business? What was that journey like for you, for those people who were thinking, okay, well, here we are in COVID, I'm going to be like Dr. Wendy, I'm going to set up my own business? And so what has the journey been like for you?
Okay, well, it's an unexpected journey because I wanted to be a medical doctor. I didn't get accepted to medical school, so I was like heartbroken because I didn't have a plan B. But I ended up, I lived in Europe for a couple years, and then when I came back to the States, I couldn't find a good job. Before I left the States, I worked in the lab making good money, and I didn't get accepted to medical school, but I was making good money. And then when I came to Georgia, it was such a different culture that nobody would hire me because I had this MBA, I had all these, years of experience in the lab, and the people that were hiring didn't have those things. So I was kind of a threat to them.
Mm,
So, they were grandfathered in, they got in 20, 30 years before, and they didn't have to have all that. So I ended up, working and being, miserable. So I started working for a company that was, featured in this magazine, Black Enterprise. It was a sales position, and I had never sold anything, didn't know about selling. And once I got the position, after 2 weeks, when it's time to get paid, he's saying he couldn't afford to pay us because he was going bankrupt. So I ended up, talking to my dad. We started the business. And then my dad and I kind of clashed. He was kind of the money guy and I was the workhorse. And once things didn't work out between us, I just, went out on my own with no experience, no money. And like I said, it was a time where there was no internet, social media. And the only thing you could do with the cell phone was make an expensive phone call. Yeah. And when I, pursued the corporate clients, you had to have the brick and mortar, the, employees, the inventory, all the overhead that went with it in order to be considered or perceived to be, capable of handling the big contracts. So of course I wanted the big contracts, but my cash flow didn't match my facade. So things got pretty tight. It was really kind of tight. So I started learning. I had some good mentors that kind of taught me how to, work things out with what I had. So you learn how to take control of your finances. You learn how to make your money work for you. Learn how to negotiate with your customers and with your vendors. And next thing I know, I was, doing creative things to, get the things I needed as well as, take control of my finances. So it really worked out well. It was a hard lesson, but it was worth every, ache and pain because, you learn from doing and you learn from experiencing. And that's, what helped me then. But in 2014 here in America, they enacted the Affordable Care Act. And it required or mandated that everybody have health insurance. So I expanded my business. At that time, I was in the tax business. So I expanded that business to include insurance and financial services. So I didn't want to be a hypocrite. So I bought everything I was trying to sell my clients more for business and marketing purposes, not for just personal, planning purposes. So, because I had clients that said, well, what do you have? Or where's your money? And I could honestly say what I had, where my money was. So it worked out pretty good. But in 2017, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And my chemotherapy was every 3 weeks for a year at a cost of $67,000 every visit. So every 3 weeks, that bill was $67,000. I had to have 5 surgeries, all the MRIs, CAT scans, mammograms, everything that goes with treating cancer. And those bills came up to, $300,000, a little over $300,000. And if I didn't have the proper protection and practice what I preach, my health insurance paid for all of that. I could have been ruined financially because I don't know about you, but coughing up $67,000 every 3 weeks could have been a challenge. So,
seriously going to wreck your cash flow.
I know. And paying $300,000, and then also having your business and personal expenses. It would have ruined me financially. But because I practiced what I preached and had those things in place, I was able not to have to worry about any of that. And then I had supplemental coverage that brought me in a significant multi-six-figure tax-free income that allowed me to, not worry about money. So I was able to recover and work on my, therapy and beat cancer and not worry about money, not being stressed about money. Because, even if you have some coming in, if you don't have enough and you have those kind of expenses, it could be more stressful than the disease itself. So that really helped me out. And that's when I called this, I discovered the Financial Cure, and hence that's where the company, name came from. And that's where I started my Financial Cures system to empower other people to, be in the same position. Because, with COVID especially, one disease, one illness, one injury can ruin you financially. But if you have the proper protection, then that's not going to be an issue. The issue will be recovery and not finance, not financial disaster.
Oh, so beautifully said. And I think people have got so much to learn from you. I think one of the interesting things you said there, you've got to practice what you preach,
Yeah.
so as a woman in a leadership position, as a role model for others, and this is your business. Exactly. And that's what the client should ask you. Well, what do you have? What do you
Mm-hmm.
do? And how has that worked for you? And I think that's just so important. And you needed to learn that. You've
I
actually gone and
did.
said, yeah, well, I didn't have all these things. You would have
Mm-hmm.
been broke. You would have been, the thought of, if you don't have that insurance in the US and you then
Mm-hmm.
can't afford that sort of healthcare, it doesn't matter what job you had or whatever, if you're then in financial ruin,
Yes.
it all falls apart. So first of all, I'm so thrilled that you've overcome that cancer. Brilliant. Oh
Yeah,
my
me too.
gosh.
Me
Yes.
too.
How exciting is that? But, to do that means that you've needed to have significant time to sort of step back, to look after yourself, to go
Mm-hmm.
through all of that treatment and to be able to, suddenly I'm assuming it brought a whole lot of reevaluation on what you love and what's important in your life, going through a
It
crisis
does.
like
Yeah.
that.
It does. And plus, it also just makes you, just realize that what's important, that, God has you. And I never thought that was a death sentence. Even when I got diagnosed, I had a sense of peace in my spirit about it, but I knew it wasn't going to be an easy journey. So I was like, Lord, what do you want me to learn out of this? And then after everything worked out with the money and, the insurance and everything, I'm like, okay, I'm cool. I don't have to do anything else. I just kind of rest on my laurels and let my business just, because it was sort of self-sufficient. But, the Spirit said, no, I got you through this. You're going to help other people get in a position where they can be just like you. Because
Yeah.
one of my colleagues, we talk about practicing what we preach. One of my colleagues, this was well before I got diagnosed, he went on a, regular physical and was diagnosed with kidney cancer. And like, kidney cancer. And I said, well, I know you're going to clock some dollars. I said, I'm sorry to hear about your diagnosis, but, kind of kidding with him because I knew all the coverage that I had purchased.
Mm.
And he said, Wendy, I don't even have health insurance. It's like, what? You're in the insurance business. You don't have health insurance, which means you don't have these other supplemental coverages. And now he can't get it. Once you're diagnosed with cancer, he can get health insurance, but he can't get, the supplemental stuff that brings in the big money. And I just really felt for him because, like I said, if you don't,
Yeah.
he was being a hypocrite. It wasn't kind of, he was, trying to sell all this stuff to other people, but he didn't have it for himself. So that just confirmed, the fact that me getting the products at that time, I didn't have cancer. So I never thought I was going to get cancer, but it
Yeah.
confirmed that, hey, I did the right thing and I'm doing the right thing by practicing what I preach. So, it's just, and that's why I tell people, it's like, I'm not trying to make you or sell you anything. I'm trying to empower you with the knowledge to make decisions that will protect you and your family. If you choose to get it, that's great. But if you choose not to, I've done my fiduciary, part to let you know that it's available.
Mm.
Yeah.
How do you create generational wealth? How do people sort of go, okay, not just for me, I'm going to change my circumstances, but for my family? That would be a big factor for people.
It is, and there are 4 pillars to creating generational wealth. The first thing, like I said, is the mindset, the knowledge. You have to, be forward thinking. The second thing is, entrepreneurship or business ownership. You have to take advantage of that entity because you could work for somebody and you can create it from there, but you want to not just leave the financial part, but you want to leave the legacy of being able to be your own boss, being able to create your own paycheck and create paychecks for others. So that's the second pillar. The third one is real estate because, you can't will an apartment you're renting to somebody else. Well, in New York, you can rent, will the lease because you know how they have all that in New York. But, you need to leave real estate because that's an asset that can go on for generations and generations. It can bring passive income and, allow people to, have money, or even if they don't rent it out, have a place that's fully paid for, that they're living in themselves and they don't have to worry about a mortgage or anything like that. And then the last thing is insurance. People use insurance to build that generational wealth because they've got what we call an index universal life. And it gives you 3 protections or 3 buckets of money in one for the same price of regular old traditional insurance. You get the traditional death benefit that pays your family when you die. You get what they call living benefits, where you can draw up to 90% from your death benefit. Say you have a $500,000 policy. If you get stricken with a critical or chronic illness or injury, you can draw up to 90% of that and still leave your family, in case of, like, say, a 500,000, you draw 450,000, still leave 50,000 for your family in case you pass away. And then it has a wealth or equity building arm that's indexed to the market. So there's no market loss or market risk or investment loss. So even if the market drops, you've got a floor that protects you. So that's the way. And then what we do is we get people to get their babies and their kids, a policy when they're young. So by the time they grow, to be teenagers or college age, they got money for a car or for school or whatever. And we call that the million dollar baby fund, because your child could have $1 million if you start young and, and make the right investments. So that's what, those are the 4 pillars. Understanding how to do it, becoming an entrepreneur, business owner, having the real estate investments or real estate holdings, and then the insurance policies. So those are the 4 pillars. And it's important because there are a lot of people whose parents or grandparents, especially my age, I know a lot of my colleagues, well, they're older now, so they're parents and grandparents, but they had real estate, not only houses, they had land that their parents bought, but then they sold it off, and then some of them had like 6 brothers and sisters. So, they saw this opportunity to get a little money, and then they sold it off, and then they don't even know where the money went. They sold off the asset and don't know where the money went. So that's, you want to get away from that. You want to keep that, the Bible says a good man or a good woman leaves, an inheritance for his children's children. So that's how you build your generational wealth.
Wow. Brilliant. I'm thinking my kids would have wanted your $1 million baby fund.
Well, how old are your kids?
I should have sent them to you earlier.
Yeah, but I mean, if they can get it for their kids, and if they're young enough, they can still get it. Yeah, they can still get it, especially while they're healthy, and get it now while you can, because like I said, health is your wealth, because once you lose it, there's nothing you can do. You can't get it back.
Oh, there's so much value here, Wendy. What about, do you think, I don't know what the education's like in the US, but, our education system, it obviously teaches you all of these subjects, but it really doesn't teach you how to manage money, how to actually live, how to be practically managed. That's right. When you start working, your tax, insurance, your financial management, none of that is in our education system. Is that like that in the US? So you suddenly sit here and you go, I don't know, I get a job and then suddenly I get paid, and you don't have these skills.
Yeah, you don't have them here either. Matter of fact, the skills you're taught in the U.S. are how to pass tests, because their funding is based on, so many people, so many of the students passing a test at a certain level. And that's what they teach. And that's unfortunate, because when I was growing up, like I said, I'm old school. We learned reading, we learned how to write, cursive write, we learned geography, all kind of stuff that they don't even learn now. You ask a kid to look at a map, or they're going to put it in an app to find out how to go, and they don't even know what city or capital of what state. So, we learn those basics. We learn how to add. And, everybody now, the cash registers tell you how much change to give back. If you take that away, a lot of these folks, not just kids, but adults, can't count enough to give you the correct change. So it's unfortunate that we aren't learning those kind of things. And, I'm just thank the Lord that I did grow up old school, because we learned those things, and my parents and my grandparents, they taught us that kind of stuff, not just counting on the school teaching us. When we came home, we had to apply that stuff at what we were doing at home, and that's not happening nowadays, and it's unfortunate.
Interesting. Oh, yeah, I think it really is unfortunate, because that's right. A lot of the focus is on how to get to the next level of academic success. It's actually not on the application of life and managing those funds. So I'm thinking for those younger women who, or older women who are thinking of now, now's the time I'm going to become an entrepreneur. I could make that big, bold decision like Wendy. You went and mentioned before that you did it 36 years ago with no skills, and how much you've learned and changed. Do you think that people can do that now and just dive into the market, or do you feel that the current market is so complex and different that they need to join a program? They need to learn specific skills?
Well, my thing is, personally, I say if the spirit leads you to do it, do it. Because if you're doing it, like for me, I did it because the spirit led me. It's not because I enjoyed doing it so much and wasn't making money. That's how I know it was spirit. This is kind of hindsight looking at it, but I had so much pleasure and joy in just the activities of entrepreneurship. And like I said, I wasn't making money. So money wasn't a priority. I had made money and was miserable. So the fact that I could be happy doing something and not work, not make money, but everything was still falling into place. It wasn't that it was so easy, but like I said, when God gives you the provision, he gives you the vision, he gives you the provisions to go with it. So I would say if someone's interested, I didn't do the business plan and all that. And a lot of people say, oh, you got to have the business plan, you got to do that. I learned about that after the fact, but a business plan is sort of like a roadmap. But sometimes you have to take detours and you can't, some people are so stuck on the business plan, they don't take advantage of the detours. And it's the detours that really gets you to where you're supposed to be. Yeah. So I'd say do it. I'm the kind of, hey, just do it and figure it out as you go along. But if you're fortunate enough to have a mentor that can guide you along the way, that's even a bigger blessing. But I'm not too stuck on, I've got credentials, yes, but the credentials I have weren't in business, they were in science because I wanted to be a medical doctor. Now, my doctorate degree, I just got, while I was going through the cancer. So it wasn't that was sort of like a nice, expensive marketing thing, it gives credibility, but it was timely and it was costly, but it didn't. I learned, but I knew already. I had been in business like about 32 years when I actually started it. So I already had the experience. It was just getting the title, just to, icing on the cake. So I'm not even though I got the degrees and all that, I'm just not hung up on all that to start. I figure if the spirit or something's, yearning at you to do it, do it. I don't care if you just got a 6th grade education. Yeah. You're supposed to be doing whatever it is the spirit is leading you to do.
Yeah. And I think the most successful people in the world have done that. It's because of their purpose. It's because of this is what I want to achieve. There's value in it for them. They see the benefit, or they're excited by it. It's their thing. And then that's right. They'll dive into that. They'll learn along the way. They're able to then navigate, pivot, adapt to those different directions, and that's okay. So they give themselves permission to fail. They give themselves permission to learn, to adapt. Whereas we're not saying that qualifications aren't important. They are, and some steps are necessary that you do get those qualifications. But you can do it, and you can acquire qualifications on the way, which do really. And I've done that the same way. I was a head teacher of a nursing school before I then did the Masters of Education, and I actually did it the other way around, going, oh yeah, I can see that's why I do that. That's why I do that. It actually boxed everything, but I didn't necessarily learn that much. It actually reassured me, and it gave me a structure academically, but it didn't sort of change those skills. Whereas other things I've done, like Lean Six Sigma or something, it'll actually tell me a whole new concept of, waste management and efficiency that I didn't know before. And it helped me make new decisions. So I think that's so valuable. Now, you also have worked for a not-for-profit. how does that, because then a lot of successful people I know have a real, a lot of value for you is giving back. So what does that look like? What do you do for this nonprofit organization?
Well, I'm the founder and CEO because, like I said, I have clients, especially some of my tax clients. They're single mothers. They got businesses, but they're what they call hustles. They don't want to formalize it. But like I tell them, in order to really take advantage of it tax-wise, get from under the table, get on board, structure your business and make as much money as you want to make. But when they're under the table, they want to limit themselves because they're scared they're going to have to report it, or, they don't take advantage of the opportunities to own their own business, even though they're operating as a business owner because they have a product or a service that they're selling, but they're not formally structured with a business entity like a LLC or anything like that. They don't have a separate bank account for it. And I've counseled quite a few of them, but I said, okay, I start this nonprofit. I can make it a formal program that they can go through. And I've had it since 2014, but I haven't effectively implemented it. I've got the program set up and everything, and I was about to, get some space so that people can come for their classes, but then COVID hit. So it kind of worked out because now we can do it virtually, but I'm on such a roller coaster with this new venture, the Financial Cures. I really haven't had a chance to focus back on it, but it's coming. It all falls into place the way it's supposed to. But that's really about helping, young women, disadvantaged women, whether it's economic or racial or whatever, give them a chance to understand and overcome the 6 obstacles of winning the money game. So they can, provide for their families without struggle. They can, create jobs, be, productive citizens of the community. And, women are powerhouses. We make ends meet. We do what needs to be done, especially for our families. So this just helps them be in a better position to do what needs to be done, to fulfill their dreams and fulfill their purpose in a formal way that they can benefit and help others.
Yeah. Oh, you would be such a blessing to them, Wendy. So I'm just delighted to hear what you do, because this adds so much value to people who are struggling. And a lot of that is, it is circumstance is really hard. People have very difficult circumstances due to generational poverty. That's right, racial tensions and disadvantage. It could be disability, could be a variety of factors. And so to have someone who can put real solid foundations, and that's what a lot of your program and your teaching is all about. It's not about the quick wins. It's not about, here's this tip and then you'll make $1 million. It actually, through this conversation has shown me, a lot of it is just really consolidating good frameworks. It's systems. It's constantly assessing and modifying what you've got, why you're doing it. Are you protecting yourself? Are you growing? Are you seeking opportunities to be able to expand and develop in the areas that you want to do, and then with that will then come we'll reap the reward, right?
You don't do it for money, you do it for satisfaction, because the money will come. But when you do things for money, you lose perspective. You find yourself doing things that you really shouldn't do. I shouldn't say shouldn't do, but probably shouldn't do. But when you do it for purpose, you look for satisfaction. That's what gives you the pleasure. And then once you get satisfied, all the other things come along with it. When you're doing the right thing and you're helping other people and you're following, the spirit, whatever that leading is, then everything else falls right into place. So that's my belief.
Look, I totally believe that too, because that's right. If you want to do it for money, you're just focusing on that goal and what is that dollar value and what does it mean? And you lose that perspective. Whereas if you're in a space, if you make space for something that you truly desire for other reasons, and I've noticed that even from having my biography coming out in your book, you'll notice as soon as you put something out, people want to know how many books you've sold. It's the and you kind of go, well, that's good, but I did the book for a different reason. Obviously we do everything because we want it to be successful, and we'll celebrate that. But I didn't write the book that I would sell whatever the magic number is. I wrote the book because I wanted to share my life and to empower others and to do these things. It's the same as because when I created my Magic Transformation Program, I want to do it because I want to help women transform their lives in business. And their personal life. And so I didn't do it to go, I want to make a certain amount of money. I wanted to create an environment that if I'm loving what I'm doing and people are at it getting value, then that will then attract wealth, right? You know, if you're in that space, if you're investing in the purpose of what you wanting to do, what was the real desire, then that will attract other people because I want to be part of that, right? You know.
Yeah, that's for sure. And then too, like I said, it's not about the numbers and the money, and I mean, you're in business, you have to look at that. But I didn't expect, when we launched the book, which we were supposed to do tomorrow, I didn't expect it to even be that popular right away. We were supposed to do this big campaign, best-selling campaign, #1 best-selling, and we're still going to do it. But the fact that I got that status in a few days, I'm like, thank you, Jesus. It goes to show that when you're supposed to be where you're supposed to be, you're going to be there whether you're doing it or not. You do what you're supposed to do, and then God works everything else out. So I'm just excited, and every time I think about it, I tell my husband, I'm just so excited every time I think about the book, and it's just because, people have bought it and the feedback has been great. People saying, oh, wow, I really learned something, which is, really what it's all about. You're supposed to learn something, and it's not, and that's what helps me, just, and another thing is that the people support me because I've been a person of integrity. You're a person of your word, and that people trust what you say. And that made me feel good. Just the fact that I said, okay, I wrote this book, and they went out and bought it, because I wrote it, and not necessarily because they thought it was going to bring them something. They just trusted if I put it out there, it's going to be worth buying. So that was, that made me feel real good. So.
I think that is just, that's just touched my heart, Wendy. And I know this, this podcast is Memoirs of Successful Women. And I was just going to ask you, well, what does success look like? And you've almost answered it in that, in that phrase. I will let you say some more, but it's like, yes, I want, the fact that you yourself say, I have lived my life in a certain way. People know when they meet Dr. Wendy, this is who she is. This is her character. This is her integrity. This is how her businesses have operated. And so therefore there is a trust. And, and then when you put out a book, it's kind of like going, well, if Dr. Wendy sort of says it, I want to know that. And that is a real sign of success for me, because it's, it's not just about, oh, here's something that will make them something. They actually want to learn from you and what you stand for. And I think that's a wonderful tribute to the woman that you are. And so you take that as a blessing, And
I do. Yeah, I don't take it for granted because, especially the way things are going now in the world, especially in America, we got this election coming up, and it's just that we've gotten so negative. I'm like, I don't want to hear any more negativity. You get tired of that. I'm not a negative person, and I don't allow that energy into my space. But, if you look at the news, and I try to stay abreast of what's going on because, I'm in the finance business. I need to know, and it's, global, but I get tired of it. I pray every day that the Lord will, get that negative hatred out of the world, especially, in the politics. You can be political without being hateful, and I'm just tired of it. But hey, that's the way of the world. I just keep the prayers going up, and I know God got it covered. So I'm just saying that's what gives me peace, is I know He's got it going on, and He's going to work it out. But it is. But the success is really doing what you're called to do, being satisfied or fulfilled with what you're doing, and it's not about the money, I mean, I make money, yes, and I appreciate that, but I don't do it for the money. And like I tell people, I am not trying to, I want to sell books, and that's great. But, it's about helping people and empowering people, especially this time, of economic downturn, that they can understand how to get out of it, because you can't count on the government. You can't count on other people You have to count on your efforts. You do what it takes to get out, that give it to me, help me out. You need to learn how to fish and not be expecting people to give you fish to survive.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Learn how to do it, and then you can do it forevermore and pass that learning on to your next
Yeah.
generation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So let's
Yeah.
finish here. How do people Diagnose Your Financial Health? Where do they go, Wendy?
Well, they can go to Amazon and it's there. If they can put in Diagnose Your Financial Health or put in Dr. Wendy Labat, and it'll pop up, and just place your order and make sure you leave a review, write a review so that you can let Amazon know how I'm doing, how you enjoyed it, whether you did or didn't. Hopefully you will, but that's how they can get it. And I appreciate it. And I appreciate you having me on. It's always such a blast talking to you. So whenever I start my podcast, you're going to be one of my guests. I haven't gone there yet, but I'm sure it's coming down the pipeline.
Oh, well, there you go. Oh, well, I would love to be on yours. I think it's going to be a hoot. And I thank you so much for your sharing today. I thank you for your honesty, in the real journey, and your journey has been amazing. And you are a super impressive lady, there's no doubt about that. You've achieved so much for yourself in your own personal journey, but you've also now positioned yourself that you can give back, you can help others, you can share that and empower women all around the globe. And there's not one element of selfishness in that, and that's what I'm hearing. It's just a really lovely, you've been inspiring to me, and I'm assured those who are listening, because, that's right. Truly successful people aren't just in it for themselves. They reach a level, and we all strive and are in our own zone. And then they reach a time that they go, oh my gosh, I can actually give back and I can help other people. And I also picked up that message that you've got total clarity. You can actually have clarity around what you want to achieve and make it simple. And then, by getting to a stage where you can put out a book like this and make things simple for other people, and we all do that. We do those sorts of things in our coaching programs, and those that we mentor. We actually go, because of our learning, we can actually trim it down and remove the distractors and remove the anchors and all those limiting beliefs. And that gives women, real hope that you can actually achieve whatever you want to achieve. Just get into that right space. And I've really enjoyed our conversation today. So thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you. And I'm going to messenger you to get all your contact information, because I'm going to send you an autograph copy.
We'll have to reciprocate. I'll send you one, you send me one. Okay.
All right.
Two authors together. So we'll do engaging, and everyone listening, all of Wendy's details will be on my podcast platform. I'll definitely put down all the ways that you can reach Wendy if something's resonated with you today. And it's just really great having an opportunity to, really expand those women globally who help and inspire us all. So thank you, Wendy.
Thank you, Annie. Love you. You're a beautiful woman yourself, so I'm excited to know you.
Thanks, doll. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of Memoirs of Successful Women. You can find me at anniegibbins.com, where you can download my free resources, get connected on social, and check out my online magic transformation program. If you love this show, feel free to subscribe to future episodes, and of course, share it with your friends. I'll see you again soon, and until then, happy podcasting.